If you're dealing with reflux and constipation, well, first of all, you're probably pretty annoyed because either of those symptoms is just the worst on its own. But if you're double dipping, well, that's not cool. But more importantly, you're going to be really excited to hear an explanation that actually makes sense. Stick around, you're not going to want to miss this.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Not everybody that has reflux is going to be constipated, and just because you haven't pooped since the Lost finale doesn't mean that you're going to have acid reflux. Both constipation and acid reflux both have multiple possible causes. But if you're dealing with reflux and constipation, I'm going to explain one of the common underlying causes that is very likely contributing to your combination of symptoms. Let's dig into the constipation first because that's going to make the reflux make a little more sense. Just keep in mind that if the constipation is a major issue for you, you may want to watch our Understanding Constipation video where we describe a wide variety of underlying causes for constipation. You may be dealing with more than just one underlying cause, and we're only going to talk about one of them in this video. So we'll put a link to that below in the description. I'll also put a link so you can download my book, Constipation, Kick It Naturally, and you can get that for free in the link below. What most people don't understand about constipation is that our stool moves at a pace according to its acidity level. Here's how that works. When we eat food, our stomach makes hydrochloric acid, or HCl, and this is meant to help us break down our food. Once this food is acidified properly, it will leave the stomach and go into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine. Now, once it's there, the gallbladder will drop bile down onto this acid product that just left the stomach. Now, bile, which is stored in our gallbladder, it's made by our liver, it's very alkaline. So when it drops down on this acid product, it neutralizes those acids. And the opposite pHs hitting each other creates a sizzle. Well, this sizzle is what we're living off of. This is the magic of digestion. It helps us break all the food apart and pull all the nutrients out. So it's kind of a big deal. You gotta have the acidic part and you gotta have the alkaline part. But if a person does not have their bile flowing well enough, which can happen for a lot of reasons, then the bile doesn't drop down and neutralize the acid leaving the stomach. Now that acidic product is going to continue to move through the intestinal tract, and the intestinal tract was not meant to hold these acids like the stomach will. It's going to burn right through them. So the body says, let's rush this out of here, and it'll run it out the back door real fast. So this is a common cause of chronic diarrhea issues. So most people listening to this are dealing with constipation issues, but if you happen to be the captain of diarrhea, then be sure to watch our chronic diarrhea and loose stool issues. And that way you don't have to be all full of disaster pants and you can understand what's going on there. That explanation helps us understand chronic constipation a little bit better because a person may not be making enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons, but if the food is not getting properly acidified in the stomach, it breaks down by process of rotting and fermenting. And this rotting and fermenting can create gases and toxins and make a person bloated or have gas. And when it leaves the stomach eventually, which may take much longer, it's still in a more alkaline state. And in this alkaline state, it will move through the intestinal tract a lot slower so that it has more time to continue processing and breaking down by rotting and fermenting so that the body can just try to get some of the nutrients in that food. Without the food breaking down, we can't get what we want out of it. We can't get all the good stuff. So this is really important that it moves slower. But this stool moving a lot slower can make it dry and it can lead to those constipation issues. Here's the tricky part. A person needs minerals to be able to make HCl in the stomach, and if they're not making enough HCl, they can't break their food down well enough to pull all the minerals out of their food. Well, how are they going to get any minerals? So you can see how a person can get stuck in this, why isn't my digestion working, for years or even decades. Now, you might be saying, but I also have acid reflux, which is caused by having too much stomach acid. So this lack of stomach acid can't be the cause for my constipation. Now, that would make sense if that were true. The problem is that it's a fictional scenario. This whole thing where too much stomach acid is creating reflux was created by advertisers. It's fiction. So it's kind of like that movie The Avengers. Do you remember that? That was great. It was like this thrilling, action-packed movie that was totally hilarious too. But that stuff didn't really happen. It was fiction. You get it? So let me show you how this works. Remember, when we eat, the stomach makes HCl to help us break down that food. It's not an accident that needs to be corrected. We need that there. There's a reason that we make stomach acid, so we can get the benefit of all the nutrients in the food we're eating. Now, here's the tricky part. At the bottom of the esophagus is a lower esophageal sphincter, or LES. Now, this is a valve that opens so that food can come in, and then it closes so that the food doesn't come back up. The problem is that LES valve is triggered by stomach acid. So if a person is only making a small amount of stomach acid, but it's not enough to trigger that valve, now that small amount of acid is going to come back up with our food and it's going to burn us. And it sucks. It's the worst ever. But if a person can help their body acidify the stomach properly, now that stomach that is properly acidified will trigger the LES valve to close, and then the food doesn't come back up. The reflux turns off. Now, there are other causes for acid reflux, like a hiatal hernia that's blocking the ability for that LES valve to close properly, but for most folks, it's really about the lack of stomach acid. So someone has acid reflux, and so they take a reflux medication that completely turns that stomach acid off, and what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, the food is not going to break down properly, it's not going to get acidified, it's going to go into the intestinal tract in a more alkaline state, and it's going to move a lot slower through the system, and that can lead to constipation for a lot of people. Isn't it a little bit crazy to hear an explanation that actually makes sense? That's pretty fun, right? So if this information you're finding is really helpful to you, then be sure to click that like and subscribe button below, because that tells YouTube to share this video with more people, and then more people can find their answers as well. We hear from people every day who fix their reflux and constipation by addressing these issues. So if you want to figure out if your stomach acid may be too low, then look at the link below to sign up for our free 4-week digestion course, and we'll help walk you through figuring out if that's an issue for you, and also the steps that you can take to improve that. Now, if you are dealing with acid reflux, be sure to watch our Understanding Acid Reflux video where we dig a little bit further into that. I can't wait to hear about your results.